Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another OTD military history live stream. Today is the 80th anniversary of June 6, 1944, of course, popularly known as D-Day. The Normandy landings began on the coast of France. Today I have this live stream planned. I'm going to keep it fairly short, not too long. A couple things I want to talk about, a few things that I've seen. I'll get to that in a second. And then there'll be a later, about an hour and a half, so 1:30 Eastern time, and Ask Me Anything. So really just kind of an open chat, because I kind of want to do that today and cover all that stuff. So any questions and things like that. It looks like Woody's just finished up on World War II TV, which is kind of a good segue to what I want to talk about, because of the first one that you've already all kind of, or some of you have guessed. I think Andreas guessed it. There he is. Yeah, you're right. So I just want to start off by saying, as someone who's been studying Normandy, campaign in Normandy for I don't know how long, reading about it since I was a kid, and then really doing that intense academic thing almost 10 years now. I've seen a lot of things in terms of myths. I mean, a lot of I like looking at myths and trying to debunk them and trying to understand them and all that. I mean, I did my dissertation on that. So for Hong Kong, not for Normandy, but it's always an interest of mine. So there's a lot I see on my videos, because I've been making them now for a couple of years now. So I see quite a few that come up. A lot more have to do with my work. And then there's ones I just see primarily on YouTube, more of an internet thing. And a lot of you are already going to know this one. Andreas already guessed it. But we have the first one here, Heinrich Severloh, or Heinrich, I think it's pronounced. Sorry if I mispronounced that, Andreas, or any other Germans watching. Not the best pronouncing names, as a lot of you know. Anyway, I see this one a lot, particularly this time of year. It comes up constantly. I mean, if you don't know this one, I don't know how. It comes up nonstop. And why I wanted to kind of bring this one up again is because I haven't seen it really at all recently. I mean, it doesn't come up like run-of-the-mill stuff that you see connected to Normandy, like like the German supposed superiority in tactics and training and all that stuff. That's a pretty constant one. The stuff with the SS, the Allies' inability to advance, blah, blah, blah. This one seems to really come up around the anniversary a lot. You see particularly a lot of big YouTube channels that have a huge amount of reach. Talk about this like it's real, like this is what happened, right? So for those of you who may not know this one, Severloh was one of the German defenders at Omaha Beach on D-Day. Sorry, I just wrote some notes down real quick because I don't want to get the details wrong, but that won't matter so much in a second here. So he claims to have killed thousands, and I'm emphasizing that purposely, killed thousands of Americans on Omaha Beach. He was at WN 62, which you can go visit today. There's a memorial there and everything. And some parts of it still exist. It overlooks Easy Red and Fox Green sector. I stopped there very briefly when I was there in April, but I had to continue on when I was trying to do the other stuff I went there for, with those other videos I've made about Omaha Beach. So he claims mostly to have fired on Easy Red, and causing all kinds of casualties. So again, a lot of you are World War II TV viewers. So where I'm getting a lot of this information from is from Michael Akkerman. And the show is linked down below if you haven't seen it. I think it was about 5 or 6 months ago. Woody had him on to talk about this exact individual and everything. It's an interesting, fascinating chat. You should watch that after when you get a chance. Because he really breaks down this of why this is not even remotely at all possible. How the numbers don't make sense, how he can claim to have killed thousands when there's not even that many casualties. And I'm using, again, just like Michael did, stressing that we're casualties. There wasn't even enough casualties, which is killed, wounded, and missing, to even match the number of deaths that he's claiming to have caused. I mean, and this is all very well known. He was very popular. He wrote a book about this late in his life, in the early 2000s. Again, Michael's the expert on this stuff, so go check that out. for afterwards. But it's just it's so fascinating how this one's kind of taken on a life of its own. I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about is. Sorry, yeah, there's a few questions here I can answer. I mean, he claimed to have fired, was it 12,500 rounds plus 2,000 rounds from a Kar 98 using an MG42. I mean, Michael talks about how, there may not have been an MG42 at that position at all. Anyway, it's, a lot going on there. So this one's why I wanted to bring this one up is because this is the one you see every, every D-Day about how, I mean, I want to say like the infamy of Omaha, because I've looked at this, obviously, yeah, it was extremely violent, a lot of deaths. I mean, it was still lower than the expected casualties, which is mind-boggling. And I'm not belittling Omaha at all, because obviously I've done work on this and visited there and looked at, these sectors. I've looked at Easy Red and Dog, sorry, not Easy, yeah, Easy, Easy Green and Dog Red. My apologies. So, I've looked at this. I know I've seen the first-hand accounts. I've seen the ground. I've walked the ground. I know how difficult this was. There's a lot here. It's just, I think it falls into that same sort of category not a lot of people like talking about, is this supposed German superiority. They're the best. The Allies sucked. It falls into that. And then there's all the kinds of nasty people that want to elevate the Germans no matter what because of their own objectives in today's world. And I've talked about this at length and all that stuff. So it's I think it's part of that. It's just also why I wanted to kind of get this out there is because you see this on YouTube across, right? If you look him up, if you just Google his name, lots of videos will come up claiming all the stuff that he said is true when it's not. And this just adds to the, gives it legitimacy, right? When it's just, that's the only results you can find. So I'm literally trying to put something else out there. And then drawing attention to those who have done the work. It's something that needs to be done, especially Michael's work is fantastic on the resistance nests and all that stuff on Omaha and everything. So it's a really interesting one, and I want to get that out there that this story has no way that it was ever true. The details he's talking about, and this is a really interesting question from John. I mean, you can't get an accurate simulation from the first-person shooters. I mean, you can just fire all day, but again, that's already been brought up before about changing barrels, which he claims never to have done. The amount of ammunition just doesn't make any sense. His fields of fire also don't make sense. The one thing that too I don't understand is why he was so persistent in believing this. He claims that he was horrified by what he did. So I'm not really sure why he kept pushing this story. If he was so horrified by what he did, why keep claiming that he did it? I don't understand it, to be honest. But yeah, he is definitely a darling of the wereabouts, and it's definitely that, and that gets attention. Well, again, we've talked about how YouTube history works and what that means, right? It plays into this stuff, right? You have to make videos that are going to be popular, and that just keeps perpetuating itself, where the same things keep coming up. The channels keep making the same videos over and over and over again. The title "Beast of Omaha" is just so eye-catching. So yeah, it's one I just wanted to bring up that I see a lot this time of year, and then it kind of disappears and then comes back. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. Also, speaking of the American sectors, I didn't put a picture in here, but should have, is again not belittling anything that the Americans did. One thing that I see though, and this obviously connects to what majority of my work is Canadian military history, right? Is all the videos that I put up, particularly that really, really famous North Shore footage, right, landing at St. Aubin, and all these comments saying that Juno was easy, all the American beaches were awful, Utah was just as bad as Omaha, or they literally will just say, Omaha, Utah were the worst beaches by far. It's not even a contest. Everything else is a cakewalk in comparison to those two beaches. I mean, Utah's total casualties, and this is important, is, again, a lot of people misunderstand what casualties means. It means, as a lot of you already know this, killed, wounded, and missing. Utah's total casualties for D-Day is under 200, 197. I'm not, again, belittling those who died and who were wounded. That's not my point. My point is that, you know, just because it happened at Omaha doesn't mean that's what happened at Utah. I think it does a disservice to what goes on at Utah, how hard the fighting is inland afterwards, part of Utah, and all of that. I think it's very belittling. I think it's just poor history. I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it again. This is because of Saving Private Ryan. You know, he that movie just really has warped everyone's, I think, who, you know, came of age after that movie came out, or at the time, has warped completely what they think D-Day looked like. Everyone thinks it's bunkers on the beach mowing everybody down, and that's not what happened, right? There's aren't even bunkers on that part of Omaha Beach. It just, they don't exist, not like how they do in the movie. So I wanted to bring up the Utah thing. It's not a belittling thing. That's not at all, you know, it's just so funny, and then I don't understand it. And I've asked people about this, and maybe some people can share some their opinions in the sidebar or have comments after. But I mean, a lot of, I assume they're Americans based on the way they talk, is you know, why Americans almost take so much pride in having such a horrible time at Omaha, and therefore saying that also happened to Utah. I don't get it. I don't understand it. You think that would be bad, right? It's like, oh, we had the most deaths. Like that's something to be proud of. I don't understand it. And both of the beaches get lumped in together, even though they are very different animals during the landings and after. It's so odd to me that there's this almost this pride that Omaha went so poorly. I've seen everything from people claiming the Americans were being punished for coming into the war late, that somehow, you know, Schaefer and before it Cossack are punishing the Americans for only coming in 41, that the Americans were tougher and therefore could take it, and like somehow that the British and Canadian beaches were a joke, that they were, you know, they had come in the war first, so it was to their benefit to land at those beaches or something. And then it just doesn't even make any sense based on any of the planning documents that are freely available pretty much online now. You can easily find them, even at like the Eisenhower Presidential Library. It has a good chunk of them digitized. So, I mean, it's just, I don't understand that one at all. And I just like to keep that in mind, that Utah went very well. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. That's a very, very good thing that Utah had such low casualties, especially because the airborne dropped in behind, which are supporting Utah, take a high number of casualties. So to me, that's a good thing. It's a bewildering one I see all the time on a lot of my videos and shorts, especially, is that, you know, the Americans had it the worst, and you know, that's that, which I don't understand. So moving along. So the next one I see a lot, and obviously I want to talk about it today, is I see this constantly, and it really does upset me. I'm not going to lie. You know, come to a few questions here in a sec. Is that Juno was easy? I see that all the time. You know, in those words, in a way, you know, it's an easy one. It was so easy. It was a cakewalk. Literally, I've seen that like the last couple of days. Someone said that. The reason why I'm showing these photos is it's pretty simple what you're looking at here. You have a seawall with barbed wire on top of it, and then a bunker in the distance. And that's not a little seawall either. Hasn't even been cleared yet, and they're already taking POWs. So that one really does bother me, but also because of it's just pure stupidity. It doesn't even make any sense. This stuff is still there. I mean, I'm going to click through and show you some of the stuff that's still there. This, if you can see my cursor, that bunker is still there. It still exists. I'll get there in a second. I mean, it's absolutely wild. And this is another one. This is from the same sort of area. This is the famed Canada House right here. This is the 9th Brigade coming in later. I mean, you can see what they had to do to blast through the seawall to get stuff out. I mean, you can just see there's buildings in behind, right? You have the train station there in the back, and a few of the other buildings that have been damaged. That's in of itself a difficulty, right? That they're literally going from amphibious landing to urban warfare within today takes what, a 10-second walk. So it's very difficult to take these areas. A lot of high casualties, particularly in this area. I mean, there's a minefield right up in here that causes all kinds of problems, and on this side too. And then, of course, you could see the barbed wire and all the defenses. And this is at high tide as well. And those were, and there's teller mines and everything, all that stuff. So, I mean, it's I don't know why. I mean, I put that in the other video where I did taken further down the beach at St. Aubin. I think I have a photo of St. Aubin in here. Yeah, this is the same sort of area from the other photo of Corsols, right? You can see the tangles of barbed wire and the high seawalls, and this is at Corsol, sorry. All of that stuff. This is where the this is Bernaystermere, my apologies, my Canada House, where the Queen's Own and Chaudière memorials are. You can see how difficult it is. It's just it's absolutely wild to me. I don't get it. It drives me a little nuts. But yeah, I don't understand it, why people are all about that. So these are, and this is Corsol, and this is today, like a couple months ago, but this is still there. It's look how difficult this thing is to take, and I'm gonna finish my video on this chunk of the beach with the Winnipegs, and the story to take this bunker specifically is absolutely wild. How difficult it was, and the casualty rates were super high for the platoon that took it. This is Bernays again. This is from that bunker that was in those photos. It doesn't have a gun in it anymore. The one at St. Aubin does. I don't know why I'm pointing. St. Aubin's that way because it's behind me when I took that photo. So yeah, Canada House is up there on the left. So this is just even today, and this is at low tide. This area was covered in check hedgehogs and teller mines on poles and all that other stuff. It was very difficult to take. I mean, Charlie Martin wrote all this down. He's a book. I have it right here. And it's one of the new videos I just put up yesterday. Charlie Martin talks about this extensively in Battle Diary, which is one of the best memoirs of Canada's war, period. One of the best Canadian military memoirs, period. Anyway, yeah, so it's just, it's absolutely crazy that people say this. And this is the one at St. Aubin. Yeah, that is... how this was difficult to take. They literally couldn't get off the beach to take it. They had to flank it through the town and take it because they were pinned down by the fire on it from the beach. So that's how this thing goes down. There's a photo of it, and I shared it in a Now and Then video. And I'll talk about the North Shore landing as well later on. I just unfortunately ran out of time with D-Day coming and all the other projects I had to finish. But yeah, this is just one of the emplacements that's still there. It's wild to me that people believe this stuff. And this is the same bunker right here, further up. And like, this is something I want to talk about because I get this question a lot, and I see it already here. Is the wall is shorter because of sand accumulation? Yes, that is why. I mean, Bernays and Corsol. I mean, even when I was there in April, which to me is wild, people were in the water. Like, it's a beach destination. It's a vacation spot. So I want to make the beach nice. This is St. Aubin. I haven't really been there when the weather is great. Particularly at St. Aubin. It is like, it has hotels and restaurants just like the other two. It's just that the beach seems different here because this is what the wall looks like at other spots, right? You saw in those photos. It's wild how high that stuff is. What you have to deal with to take these areas. It's bonkers. Yeah, so that's the big one I wanted to get out of the way. Is Juno was by far not easy, and this is just evidence of stuff that still remains there today for those skeptics. Like, literally someone, I don't even know what they were talking about anymore, said photo evidence isn't good enough. I think it was talking about Juno, actually, or even D-Day, or even that D-Day didn't happen. I don't know anymore. I see so many stupid comments, kind of melts my brain. Some of the things I see, like D-Day was some sort of conspiracy that it didn't happen, or something like that. And this stuff is there. You can go see it for yourself if you're there. I mean, it's quite the ruse to put this in place for reasons I still don't understand what they were arguing. So that's the ones I definitely want to talk about was Severloh, Utah, and how Juno Beach was quote unquote easy, because that's the ones I see a lot. I don't remember if I was going to talk about any others. It's probably bad, but I don't remember. But maybe it's in the description, so it can remind me. I can't remember off the top of my head if I was going to talk about another one. I think that's all I got for the photos. Yeah, so I saw a question there about the casualties. Yeah, it was a higher percentage ratio. I can't remember, somebody asked that. See if I can go through some questions here real quick. Yeah, Juno was a higher percentage of casualties, or second highest after Omaha. Yeah, it was wild how many casualties they took. And I can do this better in those videos because I can have the numbers and all that good stuff. Yeah, absolutely wild. Sorry, I'm just making sure I got caught up. Yeah, I mean, this is a good point from John here about casualty of. I got my finger shot off. Even how the British armies, Commonwealth armies reported, if you go to a medical station, you're a casualty. You could need a bandage on your leg for a scrape, and you're a casualty because that's counted. So I mean, it's every army does it differently. So it's not even apples to apples half the time, and it's complicated. Yeah, here it is. Oh yeah, yeah, it's a higher proportion, second highest. I mean, that's the thing, right? That's a good point from Great Dominion here. Of people say any landing on any beach was easy. You could say no, none of them are easy. An amphibious landing is never easy, especially one that's opposed. Very very difficult to do. It's studied extensively. It's still studied, still trying to figure out how to do these the best way. It's not an easy thing. And someone, I can't remember, this was on social media somewhere. Alan Allport made a really interesting point. Because I made the same question. I was like, why do people keep saying Juno is easy? And he's like, well, you could say that all of the beaches were technically easy because the casualty figures were half of what they were supposed to be for D-Day. I mean, it's inland that causes the problems. So, I mean, even Omaha, which, again, videos even on my own channel, it's a hell on earth for that morning and into the afternoon. Even that, the numbers are still lower than they expected. I mean, they were expecting everything to be much worse. Everywhere to be in Omaha and worse, every beach, every sector. So, I mean, it's an interesting way to think about it. Obviously, other beaches have lower casualties, like Utah, for example. But it's so an interesting thing that I see today, and these are the things I just wanted to get out in this sort of myth setting. Is there's all kinds of myths out there, and this is one of them, and we need to just kind of pause for a second on how we think about these things. Yes, James Noonan or Scotty from Star Trek lost 2, I believe, fingers by his own guys, by Canadians, actually. A sentry shot him, and he was wounded. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. This is, sorry, Ian's asking if I can do development of resource training and tactics between Dieppe and Juno. Maybe. I mean, not talked about much. There's not much there. It doesn't really come up. The lessons learned at Dieppe are applied broadly, like giving armor to engineers and things like that. As far as I can tell, down to the basic level, that doesn't really change. I mean, battle drill is the big to do, and that has nothing to do with Dieppe. And there's a whole historiography behind it. Actually, I honestly find it quite boring. But it's an important part of this, and yeah. But it's something to think about. Yeah, for sure. Oh, I don't know what bent the muzzle brake on the gun. Maybe the impact. I don't know. I don't know for sure, 100%. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. Yeah, he got hit by friendly fire. He was coming back to the OP on the bunker on the beach because he was a gunner, and he got shot up. Yes, is a big lesson. Yes, Canadians took a lot of hell at the up. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Oh, thank you, Ivan. That's so nice of you to say. Thank you so much. Yeah, so that's the big one I want to talk about. I mean, there are so many. I didn't want to go on and on and on because I kind of want this to be watched afterward. I do want this to be watched afterwards, so hopefully some people will check it out. Because then we can do the AMA. We can just talk forever if we want. Getting over a cold, so maybe that's why my voice is a little funky. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of myths. I mean, if you guys want to leave some comments in sidebar or after about the myths you come across, that'd be interesting as well. I'd love to hear things you hear about D-Day and if you've had your mind changed on any of this stuff, right? Like maybe you bought into a myth or something you thought was a myth wasn't actually a myth, right? It can go both ways. There are just so many things that get misunderstood, are warped for all kinds of reasons. I mean, selling books and documentaries and things like that is one of the reasons why. But yeah, so it's something that's really, really interesting to me. Obviously, I love looking at myths and trying to bust them as best as possible, and then bringing the light of work of others who have done the same. Because there's quite a bit out there, people who are working on this, and Woody's done a good job with that, and bringing those people on he did a few months back, a whole bunch of myth busting series he did. So those are good to look at if you haven't seen those. But yeah, lots of people are out there looking at these things. I guess my overall conclusion, I can wrap up with this now, is, don't just buy into everything you hear. I mean, I know I'm kind of preaching to the converted here, but I mean, we've all done it. I've done it too. You hear something and you're like, oh, that's a crazy story. And then you just kind of keep repeating it over and over again. A lot of things I like to say is just stop and think for a second. Like the Severloh story. It's just, if you stop and think about that for a second, even if you have like the most basic knowledge of this stuff, it doesn't make any sense. Like that's just crazy. If you just look at the numbers that are easily, because that's what I did. I just Googled the numbers. And, it came up from the American sources like DOD and the Army and all this stuff in like literally fact sheet format, a PDF of one page. The numbers just don't match with what Severloh is saying. It just doesn't make any sense. So it's just, that's kind of what I want to get at with myths is we got to stop pushing them. We got to think about these things a little bit better and then push back against when people use them, particularly is, for nefarious reasons or just purely motivated for commercial reasons to push a narrative to make money, and I get why they do that because it's easy. It's the easiest way to do it. Trying to do the real good history is difficult and it's not financially rewarding. So I will say that much. Yeah, so I'll be back at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time for an AMA. That one, there'll be no rush. Bring your questions if you're still all available. That would be a fantastic time to hang out. I have no rush after that point. I just wanted to make sure I could grab something to eat before that. Yeah, I mean, here's a good one we can finish on. Another one I didn't want to touch because you could talk about this forever. Yeah, you hear, Robert Capa, Con. There's a whole bunch of them. It just goes on and on and on. That's why I only wanted to pick a few ones that I thought were interesting, ones that I see. So other than that, thanks for hanging out with me for under half an hour for this time. I'm sure the AMA will be much longer as they definitely are. But yeah, so thanks everyone for coming hanging out. Thanks again to all of my patrons and YouTube channel members. You guys are really making a difference in keeping OTD running. I'd like to get a few more of you. If you're willing to sign up, that would be great. There's links, everything down below to sign up. Any little bit of help you can give makes all the difference. But other than that, I will see everybody in an hour. So have a good little break, everybody. Bye.